Among every other regret that comes with living a life without a father involvement is the regrets of always seeking validation from people.
Welcome back to Makamba Unfiltered Conversations, the space where we sit with the raw, the real, and the unpolished truths of life. Today's episode is one that cuts real deep. We're talking about the ripple effect of regrets, expectations, and lessons. Regrets don't just live in the past. Regrets have a way of echoing into our present and finding their way seeping into our future. Expectations, whether they are placed in us or on us, has a way of shaping the way we walk into our future. Somewhere in between all of this are lessons. Lessons that are hard-earned truths that become anchors for our growth. My guest today, Mrs. Esther Molokwu, has walked through all three: regrets, expectations, and lessons. And she carries the stories that reflect the reality of so many of us, but rarely ever noticed. So today is more of like a sobering episode where we lean in, and despite the fact that it is sobering, it will be raw, it will be real, and it will be deeply reflective. Before we go on, I'd like to introduce our guests today, Mrs. Esther Molokwu. Esther Uchechukwu Molokwu is a nurturer passionate about inspiring and empowering young people, especially young ladies, to build resilience and a strong self of self. Through counseling and structured mentorship, Esther helps these young ladies develop the inner strength to thrive and fulfill their God-given destinies. She is the founder of the Nurturers Mentorship and Counseling Hub, focused on holistic youth development with a special emphasis on self-esteem, education, and the convener of the Fathers Girls Foundation, a faith-based initiative supporting girls growing up without fathers. Esther is one of such people, and she's written a book, The Fathered Child, which was written by her on how to navigate life without a father involvement. So when I say that this is going to be a deeply reflective episode, I mean just that. So she tries to nurture and support these young girls growing up without fathers to find healing, identity, and meaning. Beyond her work, Esther is a devoted wife and mother of three. I seem to have had quite a number of mother of threes on these episodes. So Esther, welcome to Makamba Unfiltered Conversations. It is great to have you. And I'm glad that, you agreed to come on this show with me. Our meeting was orchestrated. That's what our meeting was. Our meeting was very orchestrated by God. You had just, written this book, and you had, just published it. And I happened to be in an environment where, I got to see you. And then the talk about growing up without a father, not having had a father figure, and the effect that it literally had on your life, And I know that there are so many young people out there, not just young, even some, maybe my own peer group or something, who have also had, similar, grown up in a similar situation like yours, you understand? And that has actually shaped, the life that they live today. So I think that was where I got very carried away, and I was like, you know what? I would like to have you on Makamba, because Makamba is put out there not just as a podcast, but a podcast that is making impact and trying to transform, the world one day at a time through, some of the kind of topics that we put out here and the kind of guests that we bring. And you are one of that kind of guests. So thank you for honoring us. You are busy because you are here, there, and everywhere doing one nurturing program or the other. Your emphasis is on young girls. You're trying to make young girls not go through the experience that you went through. So you're quite busy, but you making out time. Thank you very much for coming on Makamba. So let's just go straight into it. I mean, we're talking regrets. We're talking the entire whole portfolio of what that comes with it. So we just delve in immediately, on the weight. So let's talk about the weight of regret. So regret is something that we carry. We literally carry in different forms. We carry regret in different forms. Missed opportunities, wrong turns, words that were said that we can't take back, growing up without a father figure, having gone through so much without, someone directing you or being involved in your life. When you hear all those little things like daddy's girl, you didn't have an opportunity to be called that. You understand? So can you share a regret that has obviously been the most profound, that has had the most profound ripple effect in your life, how it shaped you emotionally, and and how that experience has, taught you how to deal, with your past?
Okay, so thank you so much for the amazing question and also for having me. Okay, so among every other regrets that comes with living a life without a father involvement is the regrets of always seeking validation from people, even people that you don't really have to, seek validation from. Let me share this story. There was a time that I was quite young, a teenage girl. So I was walking down the street with a friend, my friend. Then we came across a mentally ill man. And then this man turned and said to my friend, "You are so beautiful." And
You're supposed to be mentally ill, right?
yes, so guess what? I started asking myself, what of me?
And this was a compliment from a mentally ill
I'm
man,
telling you the honest
but it had an
truth.
effect on you.
Uh-huh. So growing up without having, it was even later that I come to discover that all these validations, because it has actually shaped at a time the way I show up, the way I relate with people, even relationship. I'm always looking for that validation. That's okay, I'm here for you, all that. So it was as I started reflecting on my journey so far and how it has, affected me and all that, I come to remember that story. So one of the things that I regret about is having to live a life, a whole, phase of my life, looking out for validation from people, looking out for validation from
So there's that imposter
individuals.
syndrome,
Exactly.
yeah, kind
Yes,
of feeling.
individuals that, in fact, most of the time, these are the people that, in fact, these are the people I value, and these are the people that I place so much, value on. But because of that, when someone is always cringy around you and you're like, what is all this now? Something like that. So, and there was a valuable relationship I lost as a result of that. And it was later that I come to understand that this is this.
Yeah, so that naturally would have an impact on anybody's life. I
Yeah.
mean, where you're constantly seeking to know, am I good enough?
Mm-hmm.
Am I pretty enough?
Mm-hmm.
Do I look like the kind of person that, deserves to be there? And they tell you opportunities come and I'm like, am I good enough for it?
Uh-huh.
I
Exactly.
understand clearly. Yeah, that can be a lot. That can be a lot. So let's look at also the pressure of expectations. So we looked at, the regret part. So let's look at the expectations. Whether the expectations is coming from family, whether it's coming from the society, whether it's coming from even yourself. You understand? Coming from, friends, people you work with, co-workers, business partners, it can either be, expectations can either be a cage for you, or it can be some sort of a guide as to this is where I need to go. So guide me as I go along with it. What are the biggest expectations you have had to navigate in your own journey? And how did they either push you forward or weigh you down? Because it can either be a cage or it can be a guide. So what are some of those big expectations that either pushed you or they weighed you down? Because you've already referred to the fact that validation was one thing that was pushing you down. So what else, maybe guided you or something,
Okay.
or-
So because of what we are talking about. So I will kind of keep reflecting, keep touching that.
Please.
So one of the expectations I had was expectation of having someone to show up and then say something like, I am your father.
Mm.
You know that? So I had a friend who shared the story, and she said there was a time in her life that her pastor walked up to her and said to her that God said I should love you until you are whole. And I went back to God in prayer and said, like, God, I need you to tell
Tell
somebody
somebody.
this. I need you to tell someone to come and say this to me. So every day I was like, God, where is my father? Who is that person that will take up this responsibility to love me unconditionally as a daughter to her? So it was an expectation that I carried for a very long time. And then I come to discover that, yes, I had this expectation, but God has a way of answering our prayers his own way. So one thing I discovered was, number one, God brought me to that place where he made me to realize that no one can actually father me than him. Nobody can father me as the way he will ever do that, like the way he would do that. So, but even at that, he also brought people to me who at every stage of my life played that fatherly role. In fact, there was one conversation I was having with God, and he said to me that anytime you try to bring someone to that space where only me occupy, I'm going to do something to that relationship. You get, that place of jealousy,
Yes.
So, and I got that. And I've tried as much as possible not to bring, father figures that he's bringing to me to that place where only him, yes, occupy. So that is one expectation that I carried for a very long time. And with time, it reshaped how I start handling, the people God is bringing to me over time.
Oh wow. Oh wow. I can only but imagine you constantly, almost like you're constantly looking outside the window and wondering, or maybe you go for a family gathering and you're wondering who amongst the people here could probably have been my father, and you're, like you said, you're expecting it for so long, so you're waiting, and you're getting older. The older you get, the more you're like, who is that person going to be? And then obviously you got married, and then you were waiting that,
Yeah.
who is this person going to walk me down the aisle? Like, it's happened it's every girl's dream.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So obviously an expectation that kind of weighed you down.
Yes. And then another expectation, because you brought in marriage, let me also chip that in, because I think I also carried that expectation into marriage until it dawned on me that that's actually false. So I got married believing that probably now you have a man, probably we'll just play that role. But then God also, taught me that your husband is your husband. And your husband is not your father. Of course, God also brought him to aid your healing process, but he's not going to play that role. So he has his place to play. He has his role to fulfill. Yes.
Yeah.
And your father has a role to fulfill. You get. But at this point, I am the one stepping into that space for you, not him.
So I hear you. I hear the spiritual angle of it, which is the God part and all that. But I'm sure sometimes in your closet, in your personal space, there would always be I still need a physical father.
Yeah.
How did you handle that? You still know, like, what? I still need a physical father to call me to say, Ne, how are you? You understand? Or how are my grandbabies or something?
Yes.
So how do you handle that sometimes in that space?
Okay, so that is where I shared. That is why I talked about the place of, God bringing in father at every season in my life. So that's the place of mentors, pastors, and other important personalities in my life. You get. So currently, I have a number of them.
I can imagine. Where you didn't have one
I'm
before, you
telling
now have
you.
like
I'm
20
telling you.
around. Yeah.
So, who is actually playing that role? So, I'm at this point in my life, I've come to that place where, yes, there's times where you still need, "Yeah, this is my father, this is my daddy," you get.
Yes, yeah.
But even at that, God have also brought someone who has stepped into that space. And I can, in fact, let me even say this. I learned how to call father, daddy, after I got married from my son.
I see.
So
Who of course has a physical father figure.
exactly. So that was how I learned how to call that father, that word daddy. You get. It was a whole lot, but even at that, God has also given, in fact, God has given me someone to actually refer that word to, daddy.
Wow. Wow. I'm feeling this, and I hope my Makamba community, I mean, this must, somebody listening to this must be resonating with you. Some young man out there, some young woman, or even some, much older person who also has found themselves, in this same, position, and wondering how. Because I mean, because social media is now so awash, and you can put anything out there, you actually do see a lot of these people, out there actually looking, putting themselves out there and saying, I didn't have this privilege, just looking for who they can connect to, who has probably surmounted that kind of experience and still living life the way life needs to be lived, and your story, Esther, is one of that. So let's look at lessons from the pain. And when you look back at the moments of failure, for instance, or betrayal or disappointment, because obviously there's no way, having gone through this, you haven't experienced this, where sometimes the pain felt so overwhelming, very overwhelming. What lessons rose out of, these experiences? What kind of lessons, and how do you now carry that as a guiding principle, in your life?
So walking through this part, I can't say it has been smooth. No, there have been the highs and the lows of it. And one of the lessons that I have learned is that God is attracted to rejection.
That's very deep.
God is attracted. In fact, whatever you are doing in life, don't ever come to the point where you feel that no one is out of it. Like, this person is not it, and
Like,
you just,
it's game over for the person.
I'm telling you, because what you are doing is you are indirectly bringing God into the person's life, because God will just pick up that person and sit with that person.
I like the word sit with the person.
Yes, because he will make sure that something so beautiful comes out of that person. And it was so much encouraging for me when I look out there and I see so many people who have the same story I have, and they are doing so amazingly well. I reached out to someone and I asked her, I saw her, she's doing amazingly well, and what she was doing is something I really want to venture in. And during our conversations, I shared with her, this is my story. And she sent me a message back, Esther, you are just sharing my story. It was a moment of deep relief for me. Finally seeing someone who has the same story you have, and this story is not limiting her at any point. And also working as a school counselor at a time, I have a number of girls who come to me, share the same story, and I look into their eyes and say something like this, you have the same story I have. This is my story. And they were like, Auntie, really? I said, yes. And you can see that sign of relief. You get. So the lesson is never reject a person because you are indirectly bringing God into the life of that person. You get. So another lesson I have also learned is that our healing, our emotional healing, yes, there is a place of counseling, there is a place of personal development and every other thing, but we can't take God out of the equation. We can't. That is literally one of the reasons why Jesus came, to heal the brokenhearted. So
True that.
So this is his part of the deal. So we can't just take God out of it.
So after having understood all this, what does success now look to you? Beyond titles, beyond, what does success look to you?
Thank you so much for that. To me, success is so many things to so many people, to different people rather. But to me personally, success is being in the will of God part-time. Knowing that this is what God wants you to do now, and you are there. And there's no way you will be in God's will part-time and you will not, achieve the monetary path of the success we all know. You get. But being in God's will at every point in time, to me, is success. Is success.
So your entire experience has now given you some sort of rethink about how you see a lot of things now.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying, okay, you don't have to have it all. However, I can still be who I want to be.
Exactly.
As long as it's in line with God's will for
Exactly.
you. That makes a lot of sense. It also is some sort of healing for someone out there, who is saying, I didn't have it all. My life feels like it's partially met. It's partially evolved, because a lot of people are walking around with this baggage. I'm sure in your course of nurturing, because you spend a lot of time more with the young women. There are a lot of young men. The cap that I wear, which is a cap of counseling, I get to see this a lot. There are quite a lot of young men who are out there carrying the same baggage. You understand? Moving around, who didn't exactly have father figures, who they could do high fives with, who they could go out with, who they could twin with. You know how when a young man is growing up, he gets to a point he starts to twin with his dad, whatever it is he's wearing and stuff like that. So there are quite a number of people who did not have that experience, and it's weighing them down. I know a couple of personal friends of mine who are going through this, and how they are handling, their sons, because their sons keep seeing themselves as failures because they did not have this father figure, and so that's defining success for them. A lot of it, and saying, I can't be successful because I didn't have a hero who taught me how to be successful. So you're saying, go out of that space and put yourself in the will of God. Exactly. And let God define what success is to you. Fair enough. I'm going to go back to this success question because it's very critical. And a lot of the questions I ask stems from, like I was saying in one of the episodes I had, before coming up with themes for the podcast, I actually do a mini, survey within a network, that some networks that I belong to, you understand, where we kind of support each other on certain things. And when I put this up, and came up with the theme for the podcast, it was the thing that kept hammering around it was still that success, the need to really, define and bring out what success is with your own experience. So I want you to really address that. So we know that, yes, it's within the will of God and all that, but I want you to look at it with a bit more depth and say, success with the kind of experience that you have had. Because somebody out there in the Makamba community wants to take something out of that, to say, okay, you know what, Esther Molokwu did it, and I'm not far from, the certain space where she is. How do I define? So I have the God factor. I have the spiritual thing. I'm reading my Bible. I'm praying 10 times a day. I'm doing the praise and worship and all. But I still want that success within my experience defined.
Okay. So, another thing I can also say about success in direct proportion to the experience I have as a person is that success on its own, just like I've mentioned before, is being in the will of God part time. And then another thing is exploring the potential that He has given to you as a person, because we all have potentials, things that God has placed inside of us, things that He has destined us to achieve as in our existence here on earth. So we can't just live outside that thing that He has destined us to achieve as a person. So if we are to move ahead, or rather become successful in every area that He has, we have found ourselves, we have to go back into ourselves and ask ourselves, what is it that I have as a person? Yes, what is it that I have as a person? Let me share this. So this also brings me to why I even start sharing my story. So I was going through a podcast by someone I respect, and she mentioned something. She said, if you want to make your money, go back to your story. That thing that you have, like that thing that you walk through, God have brought you through, that is where your money is. And I started asking myself, I can still remember it was a weekend. We were actually going somewhere, and I came in contact with that podcast. So I started asking myself, what story do I have? What story do I have that people have the capacity? And the honest truth is, anything God has brought us through, He turns us to be a savior to the people that is going through that thing at a time. So I started asking myself, what is my story? And that was it. When it hit me that, okay, this is your story, and you'll have a number of people come to you, share the same story with you, and sharing your story and the experiences you have over time and how you are walking through your healing path has also been a blessing to you. Why not package this and start pushing it out there? And that was the birthing of the Father Girl Foundation.
Father Girls Foundation. I grew up, with a father figure, so I was struggling a bit of the times to be like, to resonate. And I grew up with a father figure that was very, very present in my life.
Amazing.
You understand?
Amazing.
Yes, very present in my life, because we were like 7 girls, okay, and 2 boys. So we grew up with that figure, and he was very present, quite present, So when I was reading through it, I was cringing, it's surpassed to be like, my goodness, there are people that went through this or are going through, this kind of thing, fatherlessness, nobody to call you some pet names, nobody to, sing something or ask you how your day was and things like that. Because I grew up in that kind of environment. So I was going through it, and I felt, what, this is some sort of pain you must have gone through. And I would really recommend, whether you're, Esther spends a lot of time with girls, but whether you are a man, whether you're a woman, female, male, everyone needs to read The Fathered Girl. It's actually a very thought-provoking, reflective book. It would help, because around your community, around your environment, wherever it is that you are, there is somebody who is going through something that is, that resonates with this. So it's important that somebody can, actually reach out. So this is Esther's book, The Fathered Girl. Where can they find your book, Esther?
Okay, it's on Seller.
On
So
Yeah.
you can find it on Seller. You can as well deliver if you want the hard copy as well.
Okay. So
Yes.
we'll be putting Esther's details on how you can reach her so that you can get the book. So it's important that you can buy and give out as gifts. Christmas is coming. So somebody would want to read, something. You could bless somebody with it. People out there need to heal. They don't need to keep going through what they are going through when somebody who has gone through has healed or is still healing or has healed and has put a book down and is ready to share with the world. So as we close, for someone listening right now, who feels stuck, who feels buried under regret, crushed by a lot of expectations, so much has happened. They are broken, battered, bruised, unable to see any lesson because they are quite a number. Like I said, I wear on the cap of a consultant. So many times after consultations with people, I have to deliberately and intentionally detox. Because if I don't, I guarantee you I'll be carrying weights that don't belong to me outside of my own original weights, if you understand what I mean. So, what words of encouragement, or practical steps would you like to share, to help people move forward? People who have been through this. Because you said for years, for instance, you waited for validation. For years, you were looking into the eyes of almost every man who was coming to be like, are you my father? Are you my father? Could you be my father? So that people can start to live a more unfiltered, authentic life. Because so many people are being buried. We're hearing how young people are committing suicide. I mean, suicide is now something that I did not even hear in my own generation. I'm hearing them now. You understand? So what advice would you give to somebody who just still feels bruised, battered? I suddenly have realized a lot of parents who are bringing their young, teens and, semi-adults and all to me to speak to. And I'm wondering, how did we get here? How did we get here? How did young people... I remember that the ages that I've seen, at least that have come to me, I wasn't thinking about those kind of things at my age. So how did we get here is the question. So what advice would you give? What words of encouragement would you give? Practical steps that, these people going through things, would help them to try and start to live a more balanced, unfiltered and authentic life.
Okay, so thank you so much for that. So I will start with this. The first thing I want to say is know your story. You have to come to that place where you go back and ask yourself, because the honest truth is, most of the time, these stories shape the way we do things, the way we strive, the way we communicate, the way we show up, the way we do things. So you have to sit back and ask yourself, what is my story? And how is this story influencing who I am becoming? So start with knowing your story. Go back and ask yourself, what is that thing that affected me, especially as I was growing? Most of the time we have this story, we know it, but as we get older, if we have a way of burying it and pretending that...
So you're putting it in your
yes,
subconscious.
Exactly. Pretending that
it did not exist.
Exactly. So we have to go back and ask yourself questions about how your upbringing was and what story, what is the story you live with growing up. So the second thing I would also recommend is, after knowing your story, we actually want to accept it. Because...
and own it.
Yes, and own it. It's not enough to know it. Sometimes we have a way of, it's not true. We have a way of pushing out what our story is all about. Yes, it could be a story of rape. It could be a story of abuse. It could be a story of bullying. It could be find a way to own, yes, this happened to me.
Yeah.
This
I think
actually,
that's the first part of healing.
yes,
When you
this,
own your story.
yes, this happened to me. So you have to know it and own it. So after you have done that, another thing I will also say is this: learn to forgive. Yes, forgive yourself, forgive the parents, your father or your mother, whosoever it is that wasn't involved growing up. Learn to forgive. The honest truth is this: if our parents knew better, they would have done better. If they
I
just
like
know that,
well said. Well said.
if they are aware that their decisions or indecisions will affect your life as a person, they would have been more thoughtful in whatever thing they do. You get? So you have, of course, sometimes we say forgiveness, but the honest truth is forgiveness is not an easy task. It's not.
Never has been.
Yes.
Never has been.
So forgiveness is not an easy task. And there is this thing I usually say to, when I'm having a one-on-one session, there is this exercise I usually give to my clients. I used to tell them to go back and write a letter to your father. Sit back, craft a letter, say everything you want to say to him in that letter. And if you want to take it further, get a chair. Imagine him sitting and then read that letter to him. In fact, there's someone I gave this, she was like, that she was crying throughout, that she don't think...
It would definitely be emotional.
Yes.
There is no doubt about that.
That she don't think that she has ever poured her heart as the way she did that day. I said, that's fine. That's part of the healing. You're actually going closer to it. So learn to forgive, then carry out this exercise. It's going to help you. Trust me. It's going to help you. So the next thing that I also encourage you to do is this: use your story. Yes, this is, in fact, when I started sharing about this, it wasn't easy, because at a point I was asking myself, aren't you sharing so much about you? You get
too much information.
Yes.
Climb that
yes. So aren't you sharing a lot about yourself? But then I realized that a lot of people now come to me and say, me too. And it was so relieving, because you are not seeing that your story is resonating with people and is actually helping. You get? So use your story.
So as an entrepreneur in this space, which is what I would call you, an entrepreneur in this space, you know, you're impacting. It's an opportunity and you're impacting. And I completely agree with you. You have a story, you tell it, you own it.
Yes.
Because you are about to heal more people than you ever thought.
Yes.
You're about to be in a space where people will hear it and go like, you know what? I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
And if I hear what this person is saying, I definitely know. And that still helps me, because I still have a lot of stories to put out there personally. And I know that I'm waiting for the time. So what I don't know is how I'm going to put out the stories. Am I going to put out the stories in books? Am I also going to still use this platform of Makamba to put out the story? Or am I going to be a guest on somebody's show? But either way, I know that there are stories that have to go out so that they would help people. Exactly. But the channel with which it will go out, I think that's still something I'm contemplating. You've put yours in a book. If it is a book, fine. If it is not. But that own it is so important. And all that. So what's your last word, Esther?
Okay. To everyone watching, okay, so my last word for you is this. You want to grow yourself to Makamba Unfiltered Conversation channel. Yes. Honestly, there is no time I go to that channel that I wasn't blessed.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Honestly speaking.
Thank you. That means a lot. That actually means a lot.
I'm always
blessed.
So
it means that we're doing something right.
Yes.
The whole essence of why Makamba was created, or the vision was given was to impact. And
Yes.
I'm glad.
So there was no time I got there that I wasn't blessed. So you want to always grow yourself to that. And to you who is walking through your paths, going through your healing journey, among everything that we have shared today, and of course things that you've known as a person, I will also encourage you to find a way to go for counseling session. Yes, because there's always a place for that. There's always
Yes,
a
there's
place for someone to hear what you are dealing with. So it's going to go a long way, because there's so much that you may not be able to process as a person. There's so much that you may not be able to connect the dots, with. But with sitting with someone who is outside your story,
unbiased.
yes, we help you to see the dots, as well as help you with the framework to walk through your path.
Awesome. I wouldn't have said it any better. Today's conversation was needed, actually. This conversation really needed, and like I said, I also wear the heart of a counselor as well, and so I get to see some of these things. And very recently, it's more younger people than even much,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly, much younger people than it's elderly people.
The
So
honest truth is,
yeah.
most of the things the young people are dealing with is a question of, I want to be seen, I want to be validated, I want to be loved unconditionally.
Exactly.
So that is why the father's role is super
So
important. As of course, mothers are also there.
yeah,
But the
obviously.
honest truth, there's a quote that said that when a mother commend a child, especially a girl child, it becomes a normal commendation. It's a normal commendation. Mommy will always say this. But when a father mentioned that, it becomes the girl's identity.
Funny enough, wow, I'm glad you said that, because just yesterday we were in a conversation, and there was a mother who was talking to her child, and in that conversation, the mom was like, you know what, I agree to, I know you will do this, and she actually said, Mommy, that's usual, it's coming from you. I want to hear daddy say it. That was exactly what the child said yesterday. She said, oh, Mommy, that's coming from you, but I want to hear when daddy says it. And you just reiterating that right now actually just, reminded me. This was just yesterday, actually. Just reminded me of that statement that the girl made when she said, you know, Mommy, you would always say it, but I want to hear daddy say it. So you are so right when you say that when a father says it to a daughter, it becomes the girl's identity, And again, I because I shared, somebody, who a guest who was on a previous show, one of the previous episodes, she had also sent, she was quite excited to get what the commendation of her father was. So the girl child is very important in connection to her father. So I see where you're going with even this book that you wrote, The Father Child, and it's important, even if you are in a very put together family, it's important to also still have this book so that you can actually be able to see what the other side can be like if you don't take, you're not very conscious of. Yeah. So thank you so much, Esther. I really today's conversation has reminded us, that regrets don't have to define us. They don't. Expectations don't have to limit us either, and lessons, even if they are as hard as the lessons can be, can liberate us, and what has struck me with this conversation is that the rippling effect does not have to be destructive, because it's perspective. It can be redemptive, doesn't have to be, so it's about you taking a step back and then doing an evaluation, a reflection. Reflection has suddenly become a very interesting word that I've been using very lately. Doing a reflection, because sometimes out of regret comes wisdom, and out of pressure comes strength. So it's very important that, we do this step back, and then pain. You need to way, how does your pain, what lessons do your pain teach you, and how does it prepare you for a greater purpose? Your pain prepared you for a greater purpose because you're doing so much right now. You have nurturing foundations, you have academy for the girls, you've written a book. So it actually depends on, how you look at it. So it really heartfelt thank you. I still
Thank
say
you,
it
ma'am.
again. Our meeting was orchestrated by God.
Exactly.
Someone would think that I've
Exactly.
known you, Esther, for so long, but no, it was just the environment that was created, and then God allowed
In
this to
fact,
happen.
the honest truth is, I didn't get the privilege to share with you what actually happened that day. Yes. So that day, as we were coming, that was when you came in. You were
Yeah.
trying to gather your stuff to
Yes,
move
yes,
into the
yes.
hall. So as we were going into the hall, the Holy Spirit said to me, I should go meet you and then give you this book.
That's
So
why I say it was orchestrated. It wasn't planned.
wait, so you guys, the facilitators left before everyone.
Yeah.
So, I was like, oh my gosh, she has gone. Ah, how am I going to get her again? And only for me to,
See me.
see you as
It
we are about
was
to
it was
go home.
orchestrated,
Exactly,
It was
exactly.
orchestrated. There's definitely no doubt that this was orchestrated, because even when after that day I went back and I sat down like, what just happened? So thank you for walking us through, a vulnerable and powerful journey of yours today. Thank you for sharing an unfiltered truth for us today. So if you would like to connect with Esther, you can check her out. We would put some show notes for you for in the within the link, so that you could always reach out to her and all that. And like we always do on Makamba, we do not like to have our guests come and go. So we want you to go with a piece of Makamba so that you remember your journey on the show, on the podcast, and also have a piece of us with you that reminds you that we also do not just bring you as a guest on the show. We value you, and we know that your story will go out there, not just so that it makes Makamba a household name in the podcast. I'm sure everybody knows that we have International Podcast Day. So most people did not know that podcast is actually something that is out there, but also the fact that people can actually resonate with you, and I'd encourage that as many as actually get the Fathered Girl. I've read it cover to cover, and it's worth a read. So thank you again,
Thank you,
Esther.
ma'am. Thank
So
you for
to the
having me.
Makamba community, this has been Makamba Unfiltered Conversations again. We have dealt with quite a bit today, and I would like for you to find somebody that this resonates with and share this episode with the person. Subscribe, leave your comments, leave your reviews, so now we know. Leave your comments, tell us what you want to see, tell us what next you want to see, even suggest topics that you would want us to delve on, because here we do unfiltered. We do unfiltered here. And we talk raw. We say it as is. We're not here to package. We are trying to bring healing into the land. We're trying to do our own bit in ensuring that more people come to the realization of who they are, and they live to their purpose. So until next time, keep rising, keep thriving, keep living unfiltered, and join us next time on Makamba Unfiltered Conversations. Thank you very much.